I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and a warm welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. North Wales police believe sometime after 5:34 p.m, when Lucy was last seen walking past the Royal Oak pub, Lucy accidentally fell into the swollen, fast-flowing River Dee. On the day Lucy was last seen, the river was an average 6.84 meters high, which is 2 meters higher than its typical levels at the beginning of September. To recap, Lucy went missing on the 22nd of December, and she's just been found around about 2 weeks into January, so around about 3 weeks later. According to the Daily Mail, quote, "It's been very difficult to get police divers into the river, so they're having to search the area with boats instead. The water coming down the river is faster and wider than normal, and it's also spreading out into nearby undergrowth. Hopefully the level will drop over the next few days and they can establish exactly what happened." End quote. Now, one mysterious aspect of this case are the quote-unquote personal items of the 39-year-old that were found downstream. It's not clear what these items were, but police don't think it's linked to any suspicious activity. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Bear in mind there are 4 people that have gone missing in rivers in the last 4 weeks. Although Lucy Charles was found, there's still a 4th woman. Her name is Gloria Clarke, who's still missing from Stockton-on-Tees. We'll talk about her a little bit later in this analysis. If you're finding this coverage useful, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So if the personal items of Lucy Charles are, say, jewelry and a cell phone, or car keys and a watch, it wouldn't necessarily indicate that they were items that had gone into the water and had washed up, right? They would be too heavy. But instead, that would perhaps indicate a point of entry. I don't think that's what they're talking about. I think if the items were perhaps a high-vis vest, that we know she was wearing that at the time. We also know that something like that, which is sort of plasticky, would be more likely to float. Perhaps also if she was wearing a coat of some sort, perhaps that could have conceivably have gotten snagged on a branch. Bear in mind, if the water has risen, then the chance of low-hanging branches snagging on clothing that is rushing by is much higher. Anyway, according to the article, North Wales police had not given details of those personal effects of Miss Charles, which have been found, but they are understood to support the hypothesis that she somehow slipped in accidentally and was tragically swept to her death. End quote. Now, I really don't know why they don't want to give details about these personal effects, but if it's true that she somehow slipped accidentally into the water, then Lucy's the 3rd woman in Britain to have apparently slipped and fallen into a river over the past 4 weeks. The others being Gaynor Lord in Norwich, Claire Marshall in Perth, and as I mentioned earlier, they're still looking for Gloria Clarke, an 8-year-old woman who is missing in the River Tees. According to the article, quote, "The belongings indicate Lucy did not enter the water deliberately, and they are not thought to be any suspicious circumstances." Now, Lucy's status on her Facebook was that she was single, but some of the latest news reports indicate that she was in a relationship of sorts. There's a reference to her partner, someone called Mr. Beach, Beech. Now that she's been found, this is the first the media has mentioned anything about her partner. That's in 3 weeks. According to the article, Miss Charles' partner shared the anguish of her friends and family as they wait for updates. "The police have been keeping us informed on a daily basis," said Mr. Beach, who lives with Miss Charles in the next village. Now, I'm not sure if that means they live in the same village or they live together in the same village. He went on to note, they're doing great work. The river's as high as I've ever seen it. When it gets flooded like this, it's almost impossible to get into the water. Sadly, I don't think anything will be found until the river starts to go down. Now, Gloria Clarke from Stockton-on-Tees, she went missing early on the morning of December 31st. Today is the second week of her disappearance. Remember, it took 3 weeks, a little bit more than 3 weeks, to find Lucy Charles. Now, in her case, CCTV captured the 80-year-old entering the water, and there's also a witness who saw her walking very early in the morning past a bus stop. And obviously the same conditions basically generally affecting the River Dee on the west side of the country, on the Wales side, are really affecting all the other rivers, including the River Tees on the east side. There is also a fifth woman, Laura Wilkie. She was found in Roselle Park in Scotland, but where she was found has not yet been disclosed. Wilkie was last seen sitting on a bench near the Millennium Bridge in Ayr at about 8:30 p.m. on Monday. That was December 18th. So some of these women are disappearing after sunset. So in Lucy Charles's case, after 5:30 p.m. Remember, Gaynor Lord disappeared after 4 p.m. By then the sun had already set. And Laura Wilkie after around about 8:30 p.m. on a Monday. That was December 18th. Police have also called her death unexplained. And then there were two women who disappeared very early in the morning before dawn. One was Claire Marshall and the other was Gloria Clarke. At 10:10 a.m. on January the 11th, an unknown man was found in the River Clyde in Glasgow, near the Clyde Arc Bridge. His family have been informed by local authorities. Now, in terms of that particular case, his name has not even been released, and there's very, very little details besides just the fact that they retrieved a man's body out of the River Clyde. So the general assessment seems to be that Lucy Charles fell into the river in a freak accident. Certainly that would have been possible if she was walking down kind of a lane and it's muddy and it's dark and all that sort of thing. And certainly her high visibility vest, I think, is the best evidence that is the case. But when you look at her social media, I must say I get a totally different vibe to what the news media are saying. You know, her last message is saying that she loves her mummy, and that was days before she disappeared. And although at face value, social media seems to indicate someone with a active social life. You know, she was a 39-year-old woman working in a pub and then working in another pub for a couple of months at a time, which may look interesting and fun and colorful on social media, but if you're a 39-year-old woman, it might actually feel a little bit different, especially approaching Christmas time. I mean, in terms of things like stability and belonging to a particular community and situation. What is also sadly absent from Lucy's narrative is there's no obvious father figure. She also describes her mother as both her mother and her father, and one wonders to what extent that was an issue for her. In any event, we look for news for Gloria Clarke on the other side of the country. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.